It wasn't meant to be just a day here in Detroit, but
What did happen?
Yeah, so first, thank you for giving me the opportunity to chat with you first on air. And I want to start with saying we're deeply sorry for the impact that we've caused to customers, to travelers, to anyone affected by this, including our companies. So
as to not completely cancel all our weekend plans, my companion and I decided to rent a car and drive the 615 miles there. We made it, barely, just in time for what we came for. And we realized that before absolutely needing to drive back, we had from sunrise to sunset-ish to explore. So while our hotel room turned out to be criminally underutilized, our time in Detroit wasn't. It was nice though. Look up Sonder, Gabriel, if you want something closer to an apartment stay in the city. It's not the first time I've been here. I visited once back in 2011, a bit before it became the largest municipal bankruptcy in the United States. And I might maybe be spoiling the premise of this video a little now, but the two experiences couldn't be more different. We managed to get a table pretty quickly that morning at the advertised best brunch in town, Dime Store, at the Chrysler House. The restaurant is named after the skyscraper, originally called the Dime Building, which was built in 1912 by the city's biggest bank then, and housed its own stock exchange. Like many parts of the city, it fell on hard times. A year or two before my previous trip, it had been seized by Wells Fargo through foreclosure. It owes its extreme renovation to being one of the many buildings in downtown bought up in cash by a billionaire native who chose to stay in the Midwest. It's a theme I'd run into quite a lot. I got the corned beef hash because corned beef is apparently a Detroit thing. I thought it was a New York thing too, but it looks like this dish is something locals insist is different here and just as, if not more, great. Well, I'm not a stickler for that kind of foodie competition, and the breakfast was truly delicious, which is what matters. I marveled at how nice everything was, how vibrant and lively, and, you know. We headed from there to the Detroit Institute of Arts, which I'd remembered as one of the few places the locals called beautiful back in 2011. Its most permanent exhibition, a mural of the rewards and perils of industry by Diego Rivera, was as stunning as I remembered it. Painted in the 1930s, a golden era for the city, it was prescient in depicting many of the issues to come that would plague Detroit and all of industrialized America. Yes, the miracles of technology, cures for diseases, but also exploited everyman, even more advanced warfare. This time around at the DIA, I also got to see a gorgeous featured exhibition by local artist Tiff Massey, which used giganticized versions of everyday objects, including her own jewelry, for meditations on public space, on identity, and community engagement. Each room of her exhibit included a message dedicated to her people. Detroiters, what up, doe? My companion is a musician, and the one thing he associated Detroit with was Motown, so we went to its birthplace on West Grand Boulevard. Yeah, we double museumed it this day. We were on a time crunch. But the full tour only took an hour, so it was pretty doable. Expanding house after house down the street, this is where Motown got started, and where the label produced hit after radio hit, changing the face and color of American popular music, all the way here from Detroit until it moved to Los Angeles in 1968. I'll admit I'm a rube, so everything I knew about Motown I learned from Dreamgirls. Like, I know Diana Ross, I know The Temptations, but I had no idea actually how many stars had gotten their start here. Stevie Wonder, Gladys Knight, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, and even more modern acts like Queen Latifah and 98 Degrees. But even more fascinating to me was the ingeniousness at play back then for bringing local Black acts to a national, very white-centered stage. Not only did all these ingenues need to hone their singing and dancing, they also had to train up intensely on etiquette and language. Basically, code switch hard enough to be invited into venues that still segregated their audiences. The Motown Museum has plans to build up a much larger venue to better display all of these 60 plus years of accumulated memorabilia. And considering how much the American music scene owes to what was created here, I really hope they do. Before we absolutely had to hit the road, we went to a final meal of Detroit-style pizza at the downtown location of Buddy's. Detroit pizza is characterized by its rectangular shape, its thick crust, focaccia-like dough, and the way they put sauce on top of cheese instead of the other way around. Somebody at my friend's wedding assured us that this was the best in the city. I didn't get the chance to look for more, but if you agree or disagree, throw it in the comments. I enjoyed it, though perhaps because of the toppings we chose, or because we're in the Midwest, both slices were a little on the salty side for me. And then, well, we drove all the way back to New York. I think if I can sum up how I feel after this trip about Detroit, it's that it represents to me both the fragility and resilience of our cities. The reasons for its downfall are myriad and way too much to get into in a quick travel vlog, but the reasons for its reemergence, I feel, has its roots in something very specific to cities, especially once beautiful ones. That's their ability to collect and converge the human spirit, to inspire imagination and cooperation and allegiance to a larger commonality, and that makes them surprisingly hard to kill. The Detroit-based human rights activist and one of my personal heroes, Grace Lee Boggs, once wrote that building community is to the collective as spiritual practice is to the individual. And she was forever talking about her own radical decision to stay put in a dying Detroit, of all the work one must do at a local level. I think in 2011, I would have looked around here and scoffed at that naivety. But surprisingly, in 2024, while there's still a lot to work on, there are solid signs that something has been rebirthed. Something is rising. And I'd like to keep that hopeful idea in mind in my inevitable local struggles ahead. Well, if you enjoyed this vlog, please like and subscribe, and see you next time exploring wherever it is I'm exploring.